Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are going to be talking about the Leatherman FREE K4. Now this is actually one of 4 variants that they have with the new K series, the FREE K series of multi-knives from Leatherman. So you have the K2, which I've already reviewed, the K4, which we're looking at here, and then the 2X variants of those. So you'll have the K2X and the K4X. Now the X variants are 2 that I didn't purchase, and the differences between them and their regular K counterparts are going to be that the handle is going to come unfinished, so it's going to have a silver finish, and instead of a full-length blade, you're going to have a half serrated blade. Apart from that, all the tools and all the functions are going to be exactly the same from the K2 to the K2X and from the K4 to the K4X. But today we're going to be looking at my favorite of the group, and that is the Leatherman FREE K4. Let's hop into the specs, and then we're going to look through the tool set. We're going to talk about what makes this knife good and some of the kind of detractors from it. I think overall it's a really good knife. I like it a lot, and I'm going to try to explain why. Let's get started. The overall length on the FREE K4 is going to be 4.5 inches long. That's going to translate to 114 millimeters. Overall width is 1 5/16 or about 33 millimeters. The thickness, if you exclude the pocket clip here and you're only measuring the body of the knife itself, comes in at 11/16 or about 17.5 millimeters. A little bit thicker than that of the K2 because it's going to have that one extra tool in there. Overall weight is 5.64 ounces, so it's also a little bit heavier than the K2 counterpart, and that's going to translate to about 160 grams. Let's walk around the tool set. We're going to talk about all the functions and features of the FREE K4. Now, before we hop into the knife and the tools that this offers, let's talk a little bit about the outside. So first of all, it's going to be an aluminum scaled handle in kind of a charcoal gray color that I really like, by the way. I love the fact that it has a deep carry pocket clip and the fact that it is reversible, so you can make this knife left-handed. They also make sure that the tool releases, the lock releases for the knife and the tools are accessible from both sides. So it really works well for either a left-handed or right-handed with just a simple switch of the pocket clip. They also include a little lanyard hole here for those that like to carry their knives or multi-tools on lanyards. Now, if we talk about the knife, the first thing that I want to notate here is how smooth this thing opens. So I can open this thing one-handed very smoothly, closed and open, by the way, right or left-handed, and I'm right-handed, but it just operates so incredibly smooth. The blade length on here is going to be 3 1/8 of an inch long, or about 79 millimeters. It is a hollow ground blade that here's the thing. With the one thing that I've heard the most complaints about with this knife is the fact that the blade steel. The blade steel on here is going to be 420HC, and a lot of people have said for this price point, this should be a 154 CM. Now, I will agree that I think the price point is a little high at $90. I think this knife should come in somewhere around the $75 range. I think it would put it in a really good price range for the value that you're getting here. A lot of people have said that you can get into like a multi-tool for that kind of money with so many more functions, and while that's true, you can. They don't have the knife that this one has. They don't have the ergonomics that this one has either. A lot of different things to keep in mind apart from just true number of functions. I like this blade. I like the balance of this knife. I think it's a great length. Overall, when it's in its open position, it's going to be just a touch shy of 8 inches in overall length, and a lot of people have said that is a big detractor, that it's just too big. I tend to feel quite the opposite. I think this is almost the perfect size knife for a good working knife. I like the length of this. I love the ergonomics. The only criticism in the ergonomics that I have is that the pocket clip has a bit of a hot spot when you're handling this knife. It can be just a touch intrusive, but I'm willing to accept that for the fact that it has a pocket clip. I'd rather have that than not have that. I think that the length on it, the handle, the balance, everything is just really, really great, and I really like the blade shape as well. Now they offer some jimping on the back of the housing here. They give you a little extra grip, and then you have a place to set your front finger there, your forefinger, so that you're not slipping off of it. I think it handles really well. It fits my hand really well. Now, granted, I have larger hands, so if you have more of a medium-sized hand, you may find it a bit large. So it's something that you're really going to need to put your hands on to kind of get a feel for whether or not it's going to work for you. Now, let's hop around the remaining tools, the rest of the tools on the inside. Now, before we do that, let's talk just a touch about the magnetic architecture. So the Free series, which came out, started out in January of this year in 2019, started with the Free P series, which were the plier-based multi-tools, the P2 and the P4. And then they moved on to the T series, which were the tool series, or a little bit smaller versions of this. They're not nearly as ergonomic, not nearly as user-friendly, I will say, as the K series. The problem I had with the magnetic architecture in the P series and the T series was the types of tools that they implemented, because they had in the case of the P4 and the T4 as examples. The P4 has pliers and a file that are designed to interact with ferrous materials. In the T4 you don't have pliers, but you still have the same file. Now, if you're using your file to file on metal shavings and your multi-tool or multi-knife includes magnets, it's going to attract that type of metallic dust. Can you clean it? Yes, you could clean it, but it is very tedious, and it's just something that I think was a bad idea for those types of tools. However, in the K series tools, they do not include a file, so you're not going to be using this in the same type of scenarios that you're going to be using the T4 or the P4. And so I think the magnetic architecture works well here. And it sets out to accomplish what they, or accomplishes what they set out to accomplish, which was the easy access, one-handed sort of ergonomics or usability. So with a simple thumb roll, you can roll them out, fan out whatever tool that you're looking for, and you pick which one you want and select it, and you go right to work, which works really well in this knife. I never thought I'd say that either. When the Free series came out, I never thought I would say that the magnetic architecture was a good thing, but I think it is in these K series tools. So the first tool is your combination tool. It's going to be your pry tool, flathead screwdriver, and here on the edge they offer a cut edge, which works as a package opener. I found that it works pretty good as a box opener, as a box cutting tool. I don't find that it works that great when you're dealing with like clamshell packaging. It's a little cumbersome to use, and I think there's alternatives to that tool that work better. Personally, I would just rather use a knife as opposed to trying to use that to open up clamshells, but that's just me personally. Now, one thing I will mention, all the tools are locking, and they all very solidly lock, as well as the knife. Knife is super solid, by the way. The next tool is the one that I have the most problem with, and that is the awl. I think if you're going to put an awl in a tool like this, you should make it a true awl with a pointed tip. And they hit these tools, the implements that you get in these in the K series are going to be the exact same tools that you're going to get in the P series and the T series. And so across the line, I think they should have changed this. I do not like the fact that this all has incorporated the little mini screwdriver up front. While that can be useful and it's nice to have, I think it was implemented incorrectly with the awl. If you're going to make an awl, make it a true awl, much like I mentioned before, like in a rebar style. Even though they might have had to make it just slightly slimmer to be able to fit it in these tools, I think it would have worked so much better than what they tried to do here. And that's one of my only criticisms about the tools themselves. The next tool is your combination number 1-2 Phillips with bottle cap lifter. Now the bottle cap lifter works really well on here, and the screwdriver works adequately. It is pretty robust. They do make that pretty thick. The thing of it is a lot of people have rightly complained that these tools or these screwdrivers are basically the same styling that they pulled out of the Wingman and the Sidekick, which are much cheaper multi-tools when you're comparing them to like the P2 and P4. I can agree with that to a certain extent. However, this screwdriver I found does work pretty well. It doesn't work bad at all. The advantage to having dedicated screwdrivers is the fact that you don't have extra pieces to lose, as in the case of a bit exchanger. Now, that being said, I personally would advocate for switching out the 2 screwdrivers for a redesigned bit exchanger, because you get so much more usability out of your multi-tool when it has the ability to switch out bits. I would be fine. I'm kind of on the fence both ways, but personally, I would definitely prefer a bit exchanger in this tool as opposed to the dedicated bits. Now, one of my subscribers, 365 Survivalist, made a comment on my Leatherman K2 video where he thought that instead of incorporating this bottle cap lifter, a better tool would be to incorporate a wire stripper down there. And I couldn't agree more. I think that was an excellent idea. And I'm just so tired of seeing bottle cap lifters and can openers in every single multi-tool that hits the market. I think they would have been better off had they put something like that. Had they put a wire stripper, I think it would have worked better in this knife. The last tool we have is the scissors. Now the scissors work really, really well actually. Let's get a paracord here, and we're just going to zip through a couple pieces here, and you can see those work just quite well. The downside to these scissors is they're not quite on par with that of the Leatherman Surge. They're not quite as robust, and really the only criticism I have of these is because you can see the cut edge here, and the rest of the handle kind of arches up, and so because the remaining portion of the handle is not in line with the cut edge, when you're cutting through heavier material such as stiff cardboard, that cardboard has a tendency to hit along that edge, and you really kind of have to work the scissors in order to get cut through that stuff. It's possible. It's just I wish they would have redesigned it just a bit better. On the whole, though, the scissors work really, really well. Well, let's talk about. First, I'm gonna tell you all the things that I really, truly like about this knife, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I don't like quite as much, and in some ways I think they could have made it better. There's many things that I think are good about this knife. The first being the pocket clip and the fact that you can switch it and make it left-handed. I think that is excellent. I love the ergonomics. I like the blade shape. I like the blade length. It fits in my hand well. It's very comfortable to use. The whole ergonomics of this knife are just really good for me. Now, granted, I have pretty large hands, so if you have more of a medium-sized hand, this might be a little large. For those that don't, though, I think it's going to fit your hand really well. Now, the thickness, because they add the scissors, it's a little bit wider than what you're going to get in the K2. So it's about a 1/16 of an inch wider. It's really not that much, but it does add a little bit. And when you're talking about multi-tools and knives, those 16ths start to add up pretty quickly. So for some people, it might be a little thick. I love the fact that, if I didn't mention before, that it has that pocket clip. I like the magnetic architecture in here. I do. I think it really works well in this knife. Now, a couple of things that I don't like as much. Really, it's only going to come down to two things. I would personally advocate for switching out the 2 screwdrivers for that replaceable redesign driver we talked about before. But the final thing and the last thing is going to be this awl. I think this is the wrong tool to have in this platform. I think it would have worked better had they incorporated like a small serrated blade here, or a package opener from the Wingman. Even if they just put a cutting hook in here. Any number of tools that I think would have worked better. Even if they had incorporated, instead of integrating a can opener, or a wire stripper into that Phillips driver, have they put more their Eagle Claw style of tool in here that, you know, Leatherman's kind of famous for within their multi-tools. A lot of their multi-tools have that. I actually like that tool a lot, even though I don't necessarily like can openers on every single thing. It works well because it has the integrated wire stripper. The design of that eagle claw makes it really, really nice for cleaning your fingernails too. I like that tool a lot, and I think that tool would have worked better here. And if they didn't switch it out, just put a regular awl in there, for goodness sake. I don't need that little screwdriver tip. I really don't. And the fact of the matter is, had they switched this out and made it so that you could put a bit exchanger in there as opposed to those two drivers, you could get a bit, maybe not quite as small as that in the bit kit, but you would have that accessibility or that ability to use those smaller drivers as well. Would it have increased the price? Probably, yeah, but I don't know how much. It probably would have come close into, if they're charging $90 for this, it might have been in the $110 range. Who knows? The last criticism is that it's a little overpriced. $90 is a little steep, but on the whole, I like it. I think it grades out at a solid A. I really do. It just feels good in the hand. I think it's going to be this is what I would consider an excellent work knife. It's not the type of knife that I'm so afraid, because it's so expensive, that I'm going to tear it up or chip it, whatever. I think this is a good knife that is going to serve me really, really well. And this is actually my favorite of all of the Free series, including the P series, the T series, and all of the K series. The Free K4 is definitely my favorite by far. My name is Ben, and you've been watching my review of the Leatherman FREE K4. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in the next one.